welcome the founders of Celo, such a nice project. And I am proud of having this project here in this building. Have a nice stay here.
Yeah.
All what we wish.
Thank you for your hospitality. And you know, after chatting with you earlier, I think we should open a community center here for everybody working.
You have all.
Amazing! Hello, Celo family! Woo! How is everyone doing? Who here is jet lagged? No one? Jet lagged? Oh, is there echo? You guys can hear me? Can you guys hear me? Or you're just clapping because you're so excited to see me? That's good too. Awesome. Well, it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. This has been 2.5 years in the making. You know, we were hoping to bring everyone together in 2020 and then 2021, but now we said, you know, we can't wait any longer. We got to get everyone together. And it's been, I mean, this is such a special moment, not just for the three of us, but I know for so many of you and, you know, whether it's the Celo Foundation, at cLabs, at Valora, at all the companies that are here who've been working on this for many, many years. And yeah, I couldn't be more excited for the next 2 days. We're going to have a blast. Also, if you haven't seen the Barcelona Blockchain Week website, bcmblockchainweek.org, there's more events even being added today, so it's just incredible. What a wonderful time. Let me see. Who liked the ads at the airport? Is that fun? Is that fun, yeah? I saw a few people post on Twitter, so I think that was pretty cool. Let's see the clicker. So we have the Celo Connect hashtag, so as you share this, please use the hashtag. You know, one thing that I'm constantly reminded of is that we don't do a good enough job in talking about ourselves. We're so busy building. There's so many amazing things being built in this community. There's so many amazing builders in this room. Let's tell the world everything that we're doing here at Celo. So for our keynote right now, we really want to do 3 things. Sep is going to start us off with why we are here, share like what got us started, the mission, and really how, like, you know, how we're imagining to have the impact in the world that we all here set out to do. Marek is going to share why Celo is the best platform to build on to actually achieve that mission. And then I'm going to look at the state of the ecosystem and give an update on where we are. Before we dive in, a big shout out to the events team. A big thank you for bringing us all here, for putting together this beautiful venue. What a special venue to come together, and what a special city. Barcelona has Celo in the name. It felt like the obvious place to do this. We're still looking for nominations for the next Celo Connect city, so if anyone knows of a city that has Celo in the name, please let us know. All right.
So today I'm going to talk about Celo, but I want to start by talking about Mycelium. Mycelium we know above ground as mushrooms, but below ground there's thousands of miles of mycelial network in each square foot of forests. And trees use this mycelial network to talk to one another. When you see mycelial network under a microscope, it looks like a nervous system. In fact, it is a nervous system. It is a biological network that passes messages and performs computations, and the health of the forest depends on it. And when I look at mycelium, when I first started looking at mycelium, I could not see the world the same way again. And the reason why is twofold. It brought up 2 questions. The first question was, In a world where we know that our own intelligence emerges from the neural networks in our brains, in our hearts, and our guts, what does that say about the intelligence of a forest, whose nervous system is much more intricate than ours? And I think the only conclusion that I come to is that the forest is intelligent in ways that we don't yet understand. The second question that comes up is, if the forest has a nervous system, what is the organism? Is it the forest or is it the tree? And I think the only conclusion that I come to is that we are at each level, from cell all the way to whole Earth, we are at the same time organism and ecosystem. Can you move the slide back, please? Can we just turn off the slides and I'll ad-lib? So we are at the same time organism and ecosystem. And the science fiction writer Arthur Koestler had a name for this thing that is at the same time ecosystem and organism, at the same time a whole and a part. And he called this a holon. But I actually don't need to know about holons or mycelium to understand the truth of this. The truth is, I feel like a whole, and at the same time I feel like a part of something greater than myself. And as a whole, I need agency, and as a part, I need communion. As a whole, I have unique purpose, and as a part, I am connected to all things. And those two things, unique purpose and connectedness, those are the two values on which we base Celo. And when I talk about it like that, these seem like facts, not values. It seems obvious, except for the fact that so much of our world is organized as if the opposite were true. If we take a look, for example, at our modern system of housing, houses look like one another, and so it doesn't honor unique purpose. But at the same time, there's no courtyards and common greens, and so it doesn't honor connectedness. If we take a look at schooling, people all learn the same thing at the same time, so it doesn't honor unique purpose. But at the same time, heaven forbid you help a friend on a test, and so it doesn't honor connectedness. And if we take a look at all of our institutions, from education to agriculture to housing, all of these systems are predicated on an industrial notion of separate selves, separate commodity selves who are self-interested. But just behind each of those are a more beautiful system that's waiting to arise, that honors unique purpose and connectedness. And so the question we asked ourselves, okay, what does a financial system that honors unique purpose and connectedness look like? And I'll start answering that by making three claims. I'll start by making a simple claim that devolves into three claims. The first claim is there are three intrinsic sources of wealth that we have as a society that are not recognized by our current financial system, and as a consequence, they're attenuated by it. The first is the unique talent of individuals. The second is the strength of our communities. And the third is the health and biodiversity of our global ecosystems. And I'll say a sentence on each of those and propose an economic solution for each at a high level. So on the unique talent of individuals, the example that I always use here is Ramanujan. Ramanujan was an amazing mathematician who grew up in poverty in India, and through force of will got himself to the University of Cambridge in England, where he ended up writing up some of the most beautiful math that has been seen in the last century. And I would argue that there's not one Ramanujan, there's probably hundreds of Ramanujans, maybe thousands of Ramanujans. We just don't know it because they're focused on subsistence. And so that's why a universal basic income, to me, and universal financial access to financial tools are not just a moral imperative, they're an economic imperative. So that's the first. The second is the strength of our communities. I think if you go to a community where everybody knows one another, where the kids run down the street and play with each other, where when somebody gets sick, the neighbors come and bring food, we recognize this as wealth. That wealth is not recognized in the financial system, but it is there. And I would argue that there are systems of commerce that can facilitate that wealth. I call it community commerce. I live in a town of 5,000 people, and we have a main street, and the main street is all local entrepreneurs. And the local entrepreneurs form the backbone of the community. They know everybody in town, they know one another, they sponsor all the kids' sports teams, and they bring the community together. And so in that sense, commerce can strengthen community, and not just in local communities. Like I would say Kickstarter is community commerce. I would say Etsy is community commerce. And then the last one, the health and biodiversity of our global ecosystems. I think the economist E.F. Schumacher said it best when he said, you know, as economists, we are very careful to distinguish between capital and income. We make great efforts to do so. We put them separately on our balance sheets and our income statements. We tax them separately. We do all of this except where it matters the most, which is in the natural capital that we have inherited on this beautiful earth that we live. And in that case, and only that case, we liquidate our natural capital and dilute ourselves to pretending that is income. But because a financial system is ultimately a system of accounting, we can change that so that the strengthening of our natural capital actually strengthens our wealth as we record it. And so that gives a kind of summary, a 50,000 foot view summary of the kind of financial system that we want to see. And one could call it an inclusive financial system in the broad sense of the word. It includes all people, it includes communities, it includes the environment. This is what we mean when we say prosperity for all. But I think the word inclusive is too weak. What I'd rather use is the word regenerative. We want a regenerative financial system that regenerates our natural talents, regenerates our communities, and regenerates the environment that we have been gifted. And so how do we get there? How do we get from the financial system that we have today to a regenerative financial system? And I would start by saying we start by changing the story. And we start by changing the story of the base layer. The story of the base layer in a financial system is money. And so we start by changing the story around money. And the blockchain reminds us that money is just a technology. And of course, it has always been a technology. But it's hard to remember that it's a technology because its features haven't changed for the past 350 years. But like any technology, its features can change. And like any widely used technology, its features have a big impact on the societies that use it. And so the question we asked when we started Celo is, what are the features of money that would lead to a more beautiful world? And we came to 5. The first is a universal basic income that's tied into the money system directly, that is tied into monetary policy. The second is this idea called Demerits. And Demerits is an idea by the economist Silvio Gesell, who was active in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he noticed that whenever there is a recession, people tend to hoard money. And that hoarding of money intensifies the recession. So he said, how do we get out of this? And he said, well, why don't we introduce a small fee to the holding of money? And that the way he implemented that fee was that he had these dollar bills that had stamps that you had to affix to them once a month, and the stamp cost 1 cent. This was used most notably in the town of Vorgl in Austria during the Great Depression, and it led to an increase in the velocity of money so much such that Vorgl was this oasis of prosperity in the midst of the Great Depression. People called it the miracle of Vorgl, and people like the president of France went to visit Vorgl. So anyway, these first two features I see as two sides of the same coin. A UBI is like rain, it ensures universal health, and demurrage is like evaporation, it ensures non-stagnation. The third feature is a feature called natural capital-backed currencies. And this is an idea by the philosopher Charles Eisenstein, who said, you know, whatever backs money, people tend to make more of. When gold backed money, there was this intense incentive to mine gold because it was like printing money. In ancient cultures where cattle backed money, there was an overproduction of cattle because that was printing money. And so he said, well, why don't we back money with things that we want to see more of in the world, like pristine forests or clean rivers? And that's a beautiful idea, it's a powerful idea. And that's the third feature called natural capital-backed currencies. The fourth feature is I remember when the internet first was coming out, people were like, whoa, like you could imagine putting the whole encyclopedia on the internet. And this was true, but it underestimated the true potentiality of the internet, which was that the encyclopedia would be a small part of a rich information ecology that included the encyclopedia. And so I remember as Bitcoin was coming out, people were like, whoa, like Bitcoin could replace fiat. And me with hindsight, I was like, no, Bitcoin won't replace fiat. It will become big and it will be powerful. Fiat will eventually go on chain and that will be powerful, but both of those will be parts of a rich ecology of value that includes local currencies, regional currencies, global reference currencies, store of value currencies, medium of exchange currencies, functional currencies, all interoperating in an ecosystem like the internet. So that's the fourth feature that I'll call community currencies. And the fifth feature is the creation of money without the creation of new debt. Right now, all money is created through debt, through interest-bearing debt. And so as a consequence, we always have more debt than we have money. We can never pay off our debts. And I'd argue at the beginning of the industrial age, that was a feature, not a bug. I mean, it impelled growth, and that growth has been good for us. But now that we're reaching the carrying capacity of the Earth, it's not clear that we'll be able to grow our way out of our problems. And on top of that, it's interesting to think about what human behaviors that manufactured scarcity creates. Economists will say, you know, it is human nature, fear and greed are human nature. And we know this because we know people. But that's not my experience of people. And my experience of people is that we want to be loving, we want to be generous, we don't want to be fearful or greedy. But what I would contend is that fear and greed are natural in the context of scarcity. And if we have a money system where we never have enough money because we always have more debt than we have money, that may have a psychic effect on us. And I can imagine lots of ways to bring money into existence. I can imagine gifting money into existence. I could imagine people earning money into existence by doing pro-social things. I could imagine UBIing money into existence. And so that's the fifth feature. And these 5 features, they lend themselves to technologies. If we want to create a universal basic income, we need an identity protocol. If we want to create a universal basic income, we also need efficient like client support, because the people who need UBI the most are people who don't have computers. If we want demurrage, we need smart contracts. If we want community currencies, we need to be able to pay gas fees in the community currency. So we need to be able to have a gas UX. If we're going to have all of the financial system, we need to have super high scalability and super low gas fees. And a lot of these require technical innovations, and so the mission of Celo when we started was to create the technical primitives to allow for these kinds of money to exist. It is a technology that supports a story. And you know, Bob Dylan once said, you know, a song is a poem with wings. And I would take on that and make a modification and say a technology is a story with wings. So this outlines the origin technology, the base technology and the base story, the origin technology and the origin story of Celo. But in itself, it's too small. It's like a flower in the desert. It needs a community of stories and technologies to support it. Otherwise, it will wither. It needs projects like Impact Market and Good Dollar, who are creating UBI protocols that are being used by people who need them the most. It needs protocols like Resource Network and Humanity Cash, who are creating different community currency models on the Celo platform. It needs protocols like Toucan and Flow Carbon, who are tokenizing carbon credits and bringing them on chain. It needs projects like Loam and Ethic Hub, who are financing regenerative agriculture. It needs projects like Moss and Color, who are creating NFTs that will conserve the Amazon and the Patagonia. It needs projects like Bitmama and Katani Pay, who will provide on and off ramps in Africa in order to bring financial services to everybody in the globe. When I was at MIT, before this I was a professor at MIT, and I had a colleague, Neri Oxman, who she is an artist and an architect. And she had this project called the Silk Pavilion. And what she did is she had created a beautiful geodesic dome out of steel. And in and of itself, it was lovely. And I remember it was hanging in the lobby of our building. And one day, I noticed that there was a number of silkworms on the geodesic dome. And the silkworms started weaving a beautiful pavilion out of silk on that framework. And that, I think, is a metaphor for what we're doing here. The layer one and the story around the layer one is a framework, but what creates the beauty is a living system. Indeed, I would contend that beauty can only be created through living systems. And so Celo it defines what Celo is ultimately. Ultimately, Celo is a community. And what Celo is and will become is dependent on the stories and technologies that are built by the people in this room. It will become based on the unique purpose and connectedness of the people in the room and the entire community. And so it is my pleasure and honor to be here with the community today after 2 years of being apart. And I can't tell you how grateful I am. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being you, and welcome to Celo Connect.
Amazing. So this is the dome that Sep just talked about, with the silkworms growing, with the frame on the inside, and the community being represented by those silkworms. And so, I wanted to continue in the same vein as Sep, and I wanted to talk about what our frame looks like. And our frame, of course, is the Celo platform. And I think for everything that we're trying to accomplish, I have some pretty strong conviction that the Celo platform is, in fact, the best technical solution for what we're trying to accomplish. It's the best thing for bringing our community together, and it's the best technical solution for executing against our really ambitious mission. And so how's the platform doing today? Well, as of today, we have over 12 million blocks. Yeah! And in that same time, we've processed over 110 million transactions Yeah. And this next one, I think you guys can really cheer for. In the last 2 years, we've had 0 downtime. And this is something we can really, really feel really great about. The network's been live for 2 years, and we've done multiple upgrades. We've faced extreme transaction loads. And among many of our proof-of-stake peers that have launched in the same time frame, we're really among one of the only ones that haven't gone down. So this is a huge, real accomplishment. It's a big testament to the dedication, the hard work, and honestly, the technical ability of the core team that's been building and maintaining this platform. So huge kudos to the team. Now, staying up, is really just table stakes, or it should be table stakes. It's the least that we're doing. When we think about what makes a really, really great platform, 3 things really come to mind. The first is decentralization. Everything starts with decentralization. Now, the second, we have a big, ambitious mission that is going to reach a lot of users. And the only way that's going to happen is if we have really amazingly simple interfaces. And so we want really great and easy-to-use UX. And then in a similar vein, we need a lot of scalability in order to be able to service all of these different people. And so you may have seen this list before. It's frequently brought up in Web3 circles. And it's frequently stated as, the impossible trifecta, right? You can only get 2 out of 3 of these things. And so that's why I'm really, really, really excited and just proud of all the work that the team is doing and the community is doing to chip away at each of these so that one day we can and will be able to get all of these 3. And so I'm going to just walk through all of the work that's happening in each of these different dimensions. And so let's talk about decentralization. So last I checked this morning, we now have over $1.2 billion of Celo voting for validators on the network that are securing the network. So that's a lot of money securing the network right now. It's huge. And we're also close to 1,000 nodes now that are running the network. And just to put that into perspective, Ethereum has around 6,000 nodes. So we're now within an order of magnitude, or even less, of what many people consider one of the most decentralized networks out there. And critically, none of these validators are run by the Celo Foundation or cLabs, which again is unique among our proof-of-stake peers. And critically, even at the time of the network launch, none of those nodes were run, again, by the Celo Foundation or cLabs. Now, one of the really, really nice designs of the Celo platform is the fact that Celo has a really, really efficient like-client protocol. And that protocol enables the following network topology, where validators are in the middle, full nodes are surrounding those validators, and they can be incentivized at the protocol layer to service like clients that are around these full nodes. And not only does this topology allows these like clients and dApps that are running with them to connect to the network in a fully censorship and surveillance-resistant manner without a trusted RPC node like Infura, it also helps spread the load so that if suddenly your network sees a lot of traffic, your applications can continue to function. They don't stop working because all of these centralized services start getting overloaded. Now, to date, these like clients have really been limited to just a handful of mobile apps that have been experimenting with them, mostly because they require some pretty heavy lifting, some pretty advanced cryptography that's been difficult to do in a web application to date. And they've also been limited to Celo's initial like client protocol, and not Plumo, which is the ZK Snark, really amazing, incredible like client that we've been working so hard to create. And so that's why I'm super excited today to announce the arrival of Plumo. which once again is Celo's really advanced ZK Snark-based light client protocol. So up until today, Celo's previous light client protocol was around 17,000 times lighter than Ethereum's light client protocol. But with Plumo, we're now going to be 1.7 million times lighter. Yeah. So starting today, anyone can generate Plumo Snark proofs that let dApps sync with the chain in a fully trustless manner. cLabs is hosting the first server that's generating these proofs daily, but again, anyone can run one of these. But perhaps more excitingly, we're also launching a WASM-based library that lets web apps verify these Plumo proofs and sync with the chain, and then verify state that's happening, that's fetched from full nodes on the network. And so this means that for the first time ever, really, I think in the broader crypto space, web applications will be able to connect to the P2P network, connect to the chain in a fully trustless manner, sync near instantly, and verify state that they can request from any full node without having to have any trust assumptions with those full nodes. It's really a first in the whole crypto space. Yeah. And because this is really, really cool, and because I have a lot of faith in the demo gods today, a lot of faith, I wanted to give you guys a quick sneak peek. And so this is a version of the Celo web wallet that you may have used before, and I'm going to reload. So we have internet, the Wi-Fi is working, surprisingly. And I'm going to unlock my wallet. And as soon as I do this, this will now connect to fetch one of those Plumo proofs, verify the Plumo proofs, and then go out and communicate with a full node and start requesting data from that full node, and then verify that data using Merkle proofs. So the spinner is running. This is how long it takes. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. So all of this data here was fetched in a fully trustless manner from the P2P network using some incredibly advanced cryptography that has allowed us to do that without, again, having to trust any centralized entity. And this is all running in a web browser, and it happened in just mere seconds. So really exciting. So let's go back to the slides. Or we can keep looking at this. This is amazing. If you guys want, we can look at the console log. So these are the 3 Plumo proofs that were downloaded to get up to the latest block. Oh, and it's gone. Okay, so what about great UX? Hopefully, folks here are aware that Celo has some really amazing features that make it really easy to build experiences that offer really smooth UX to our users. You know, the first is, of course, Celo's decentralized phone verification protocol that lets users map phone numbers to wallet addresses. This lets people receive payments using their phone numbers instead of those scary public key-derived addresses. And second, Celo has the ability to pay for transactions with stablecoins. Not just stablecoins, it turns out any ERC20 token that's been whitelisted through on-chain governance. So how are we doing on both of these? Well, I'm excited to share that we have now around 300,000 verified phone numbers. That's 300,000 people that can receive payments using their phone numbers. So friends who have their phone number in their contact list can easily send a payment over to that person. And on the gas currency front, we have 4 assets now that you can use to pay for transaction fees. Of course, you have the Celo asset, but you also have the Celo dollar, the Celo euro, which hopefully folks here in Europe will appreciate, and as of very recently, the Celo Brazilian real. And so the combination of both of these really allows people to build experiences that in some ways can rival centralized offerings. So just like with Coinbase, when you can, you cash in with fiat, and then if you're ready to buy some, say, ETH, you can buy that ETH with ease, and you can pay for that trade fee using the fiat that you just transferred in. The same thing is true in a fully decentralized way on Celo. So if you were to cash in from, say, euro to Celo euros, after that you'd be able to use a DEX, maybe buy some WETH, maybe buy some Celo. You'd be able to pay for that transaction fee in Celo euros. You wouldn't have to then try to figure out how to acquire a volatile asset to be able to pay for that transaction fee. And that's just the start of it. You could also put your money in a saving pool. You could borrow against that money, and you can do all of that without having to think about how am I going to pay for gas, and what even is gas, and how do I buy this strange asset to pay for it. It's all done for you. It's all done behind the scenes, so it's really, really easy. Okay, so let's just end with scalability. How are we doing on that front? So Celo is already using a really amazing proof-of-stake consensus protocol that can already execute over 500 transactions per second using very, very modest hardware. Very, very modest hardware. But we're not resting on our laurels. In fact, we've been working really, really hard towards something that we're starting to call Celo 2.0. And if you're curious about Celo 2.0, I highly recommend going to Mariano's talk that's happening later today. He's going to go into a lot of details. But just as a quick overview, Celo 2.0 is really the amalgamation of all of these different features. First up, the team is working really hard. The team at cLabs is working really hard to add transaction pipelining. This will allow consensus and transaction execution to happen at the same time, which will really dramatically improve performance. And then the amazing folks at Mycelium Labs, some of whom are here today, they're working on some really incredible changes as well. They're going to add Narwhal and TUS consensus, which is also going to speed up transaction execution. But perhaps most excitingly, they are working to add move support so that smart contract developers will be able to write smart contracts in both Solidity and in the move programming language. Now, Celo is very deeply committed to the EVM, and that's not going to change anytime soon. But there will be times when someone may want to write a smart contract that can offer performance that is too difficult for an EVM to provide. And so that's where Move is going to come in. And it's going to be really great for people who are doing micropayments or doing anything that will require a lot of throughput. And in early experiments, teams found that that work should be able to let us process up to 140,000 transactions per second. So huge, huge numbers. So if you're building applications today, and because you're excited about the low transaction fees on Celo, and you're worried about whether those fees will go up, you can rest assured that the platform is going to scale with the users thanks to all of this work. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rene to chat about the community. It's a Web 2.0 mic, too.
Hello, hello? Wow, I can scream. Okay, this works. Marek, you just blew my mind here, even though I've seen the slides before. But let's come back to the Silk Dome. And Sep talked about this in his remarks. This is all of us in this room. And this was an attempt to capture the ecosystem on one slide. Please don't look too closely because I know it's incomplete. There's already yesterday I talked to 5 teams. So I was like, oh, I don't think that logo is on there. I'm gonna go a little faster here and blur this out and just say these are not just big companies, but a lot of these names on this chart are small startups, are projects that just started recently, and as a testament, I think, for just the energy in this ecosystem, over 100 of these projects have been funded in this last year alone, and that pace is accelerating. And so, I mean, congrats to all of you, but also this is really exciting, and the growth and the momentum in this community is just unparalleled. There's one announcement that I'm going to make, which I know is going to get a bunch of people in this room excited. The Etherscan team has launched Celo, so this is live now. Feel free to clap. And you can check it out at celoscan.xyz. All right, just a little bit more proof of progress. I really liked Marek's slides, and so I figured I'm going to try to also get some cheers and put some additional metrics out there. Let's see if it works. We've had over 52 governance proposals since the launch of the network, really leading to a lot of improvements of the Celo platform. So thank you everyone who's participated and who's shaping where Celo is going. There were two very successful hard forks, Donut and Espresso. They were so smooth, I barely noticed that they happened. Again, big kudos to the team. There's so much work going into making these happen and improving the platform. So big shout out, big cheers for the blockchain team. There's over 3.8 million wallets on the platform, and the protocols through block rewards has been offsetting over 3,000 tons of carbon. It's touching my beard?
Yeah, it's scratching your beard.
Oh yeah, maybe I should shave that off. No. But more excitingly, and this is, Sep mentioned this when we talked about natural capital-backed currencies, we've taken a step in that direction. It's a small step, but it's the beginning of a much bigger journey. And to date, there's already over 83,000 tons of carbon offsets tokenized in the Celo Reserve. And that's just a tiny step in the beginning towards a new era, which we are all super excited about. And it doesn't stop there. Now that we have these natural assets on chain, they become building blocks in the applications that all of you are here building in this room. One example, maybe show of hands, who here came on a flight through FlyWallet? Amazing, I see many hands going up. FlyWallet, with every flight that you buy with Celo dollars, is automatically offsetting the carbon footprint by using these on-chain carbon credits, which is a really freaking exciting use of this technology. I want to give one more shout out to my good friend Marco over here. If I rewind back to Sep's talk and the 5 features of money, and then look at the technical innovations that Marek just shared, if you just combine this in your head, like, this is one of the best examples to illustrate the power of this platform and just enabling something that wouldn't have been possible without this technology. And many of the components that, components you guys are building in this room are helping making this grow. And Marco, 37,000 beneficiaries. When did you start this? This is so recent. I mean, this is incredible. Like, this is the biggest UBI program in the world now. Congrats.
Yeah.
And also, when I look at the map, I mean, this is not where all the degens are, right? This is where real people are living and they're benefiting from this technology. Also, I mean, notice the heat map over in Ukraine. I'm very excited, very proud to partner with you guys on supporting refugees that are fleeing Ukraine right now because of the war. And it's just been phenomenal to see the impact that you're having on the ground. Thank you. One last shout out, Marek mentioned the Celo Real, and it's been phenomenal to see what's been happening in Brazil and how people are already using the Celo Real on the ground. I was catching up with our friends from BitFi 2 days ago at an event, and it's amazing. You can pay with Celo Real at around 50% of the point of sales in the country. So really, cryptocurrencies, stable coins are making a move into the real world, and we're getting very close to mass adoption, starting in small communities, starting in some places, but I'm really seeing a future where we can all just use the benefit of Web3 and these technologies in our everyday life. And what's interesting, when you look at, and this is just one metric, but I've been looking it up over the past few weeks, and it's pretty consistent. A lot of this is, driving active usage. This is real-world usage. This is not necessarily driven by the bigger trends in crypto, but the applications like Talent Protocol that are just growing week over week, building a community, getting real-world use cases that don't really care whether we're in a bull or bear market. And so this is really a testament of all the work of everyone here in this room. So let's take a moment and celebrate that. It's really exciting that, just to see how much this community has grown and how much we're growing in terms of all of our applications. And so I close by saying that we're here to build a better regenerative financial system that creates the conditions of prosperity for all. Thank you. I think we're going, right? Thank you.